Welcome into the Daily Wolves Courtside. I am Tim Garris, and I'm sitting here with Cole. We are going to break
Yes.
down a 124-104 win against the lowly Indiana Pacers. Cole,
Yes.
what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it was kind of one of those games where you just kind of felt like the team just needed a win. They got to get out of this rut that they're
Yeah,
in. Vibes are kind of low with the team, as just kind of discussed the last few days after, the last couple games where it just felt like the bottom has fell out. So it's good to see that, the team kind of stepped up here. One thing that I did notice that I'll just kind of touch on briefly is, at the beginning of the game, we kind of took over and
mm,
then we kind of took the gas or our foot off the gas a little bit there. And it just felt like we were too good to play the Indiana Pacers on a
mm,
Tuesday night.
yeah,
But no, it's good. We won by 20 points. We're back in it. If the Suns lose tonight, clinches our sixth seed, and we don't have to be in the play-in, so that's good. So I'm
hmm
happy about tonight's win. 20-point win over the Pacers.
yeah. I mean, you brought it up with the Phoenix Suns. It's still a
Hmm.
looming thing, and
Yeah.
especially when you're a fan of the Minnesota Timberwolves, you're always thinking about sometimes
Hmm.
the worst case scenario after so many years.
Right.
And you also saw a couple things go around yesterday about if we are below pick 19, uh,
Yeah.
that pick swap that we had with the Detroit Pistons when we traded Mike Conley.
Hmm.
If we are 19 or less, that is null and void. So you
Ah.
kind of saw a couple of things of like, oh, maybe like the Toronto Raptors can pass us, the 76ers can pass us. Ultimately,
Right.
I'm not trying to have any of that drama. Let's just get to the
No.
6th seed. We're obviously
Yep.
likely gonna play the Denver Nuggets,
Hmm.
which is going to be an absolute battle. I think
Yeah.
they're one of the best teams in the league, and they have been injured all year. I mean,
Right.
a lot of people point to the defense.
Hmm.
Tends to happen when you're missing one of your best defenders all year, and you have another one on the bench, in Peyton Watson that's coming back and healthy. So don't wanna get too far ahead of ourselves. We can preview Denver
Right.
later. Uh,
Yeah.
Wanna kinda break down a little bit more on this game and
Hmm.
especially highlight, I
Yeah.
thought, the star of the show, Io.
Makes me smile. I mean, how many times do we have to talk about it, right? I mean, I guess it's not like that we have to talk about it, but that we get to
Yeah.
talk about this guy. 24 points, 5 rebounds. His assist was really low tonight, only one assist, but it doesn't
Mm,
matter with a 20-point win. But again, it's just kind of one of those things with Io Dosunmu is he's just everything that we needed after the trade deadline.
oh,
Something that
absolutely.
we didn't have. It gives us another gear defensively and offensively. And I was thinking about it tonight too, watching the game. And over the last few before this one, it didn't seem like he was being as explosive.
Mm,
Wasn't getting to the rim as much. Now that could be because of the Pistons and their defense, or Philly and just them making it more difficult on him to get to the rim a little bit. I don't know. It just seemed to me that he wasn't pushing the pace as much.
right.
But tonight he just started a little slow, but then he kind of just flourished as the game went on. And all of a sudden in the third quarter, I'm looking, I'm like, oh man, he's got 17 points. Oh, now he's at 20.
Yeah.
No, it's a great game by Io. And it's just one of those things that, again, Tim Conley, amazing, amazing trade. And I'm
Yeah.
super happy that this guy's on my team.
It's a great pickup. And one of
Hmm.
the things that's so unique about Io, and this is actually a criticism I have of both Dante and previously Nickeil Alexander-Walker,
Hmm.
they struggle to play down at the 3. It's
Right.
something where, I thought Na last year was s a lot of the times miscast as a 3 coming off the bench for Jaden.
Yeah.
Uh, Io can play the 3. He's a little bit
Right.
thicker, than Na ever was. He's got a great wingspan, and that versatility to play all the way down to the 3, but also play up to the 1, just like Dante and
Yeah.
Na could, is
Right.
just so valuable. And
Yeah.
tonight, the Indiana Pacers had absolutely no interest
No.
in keeping up with Ayo Dosunmu. He just took it to the rack, and you love to see
Yeah.
it because he was 1 for 5 from three-point land, but
Hmm.
that didn't deter him from having a 24-point night. Uh, he saw who was in front of him. It's a lesser team. Sometimes you just gotta take it to the hoop, play it your way, and just get the ball to the hole. So it was really
Yeah.
good to see that, especially coming out of the second half.
Mhm.
you mentioned it earlier. It was kind of disappointing. You're sitting there like, all right, are we really going to toy around here with the Indiana Pacers and on
Yeah.
April 7th? Uh, but they kind of came out and took care of business, and that's exactly what you want to see. Um, One thing I want to bring up too, I can't get this out of my head.
Okay.
Not stand looking at those Indiana Pacers jerseys in the court all night. Thoughts on that?
I honestly, to me, I like the old logo, man.
Did you?
It just, yeah, I kind of do. Reminds me of Reggie Miller a little bit. I don't know if you were able to watch Reggie, growing
Yeah,
up, but I was in that time frame when I was just starting to watch basketball. So it reminds me of that old school Reggie, Reggie Miller jerseys. Not my favorite. It's not anything compared to what we have
yeah.
with the trees. Nothing
Oh, no.
compares to the trees. But I mean, the court was okay. It's just, I don't know. I'd like the logo, but yeah, it was kind of an eyesore.
Mm.
And people may not like what I'm going to say about this, but our neon green court that
Oh,
we
yeah.
do for the cup, dude, I can't take that.
That yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Hey, just wanna shout out anyone in that's watching this live. We do have comments coming across the screen, so if you have any questions, feel free to
Mhm.
drop us a question, and we will absolutely dive into it for you. Um, Moving on to Julius Randle, 5 from 13. I did think he set the tone a little bit. What were your thoughts on his game tonight?
Yeah, I think just overall recently he seems to be a little bit more engaged. All across the board. There were a couple times tonight where I felt like he was locked in,
Mm,
and then there were points where I don't know, he just felt like he was too good to be playing in this game tonight.
yeah,
And I feel like that was kind of right around that second quarter mark where the Pacers were hanging around. There was like a 6 point to 10 point game, back and forth a little bit here and there.
yep,
But I am happy that Julius seems to be, locked in defensively.
mm,
You and I have talked about this where just getting into a stance, right? Just getting into the
right,
defensive stance and just showing us that he can do that. Um, I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not the biggest Julius Randle fan, but it is nice to see that he's kind of taken this upon himself to play a little bit better defensively. And
mm,
his offense is definitely getting better after that horrid stretch that he had before the All-Star break and after the All-Star break.
yeah.
Um, but it's just kind of one of those things that kind of goes in and out with him. And just hopefully now with a couple games left, it's kind of what it seems like that he's starting to lock in more for
Yeah.
us. And hopefully that once the playoffs hit too, it's just all systems go.
Yeah. So before we get to the playoffs, just wanted to kind of walk through the last couple games. Obviously, the rest of this year we're going to be at without Anthony Edwards likely, and
Yeah.
possibly Jaden McDaniel. Well, more likely Jaden McDaniels as well.
Yeah.
Uh, Without those two guys, I think especially with Ant, you really want to see the team find something uh,
Hmm.
and not rely so heavily on their safety net and Anthony Edwards. And something
Right.
that's really stood out to me, we had a terrible outing against Charlotte defensively, but otherwise, in the last 10 games, the Timberwolves are second in defensive rating. They're also
Yeah.
first in opponent effective field goal percentage.
Mhm.
Uh, and those are really good signs.
Yeah.
If you're ever, if for everyone listening, if you're clinging to hope on, man, what are we doing here heading into the playoffs? Is that we had a 3-game losing streak. We came out a little bit flat against the Pacers and took care of
Mhm.
business in the second half. You know, you really want to see the team find that defensive gear because ultimately, when you add an Io Dosunmu and you have this transition game that you can get to at this point, it is
Yeah.
all the more lethal if you can add that to a defensive presence.
Yeah.
So love to see those numbers. Yes, we have some softball games in that 10 game sample size, but ultimately what you want to see them do is take care of business in those games. Um, Now the flip side, and why we're 5-5 in the same stretch while playing pretty good defense,
Mhm.
they're 29th in offensive rating and 30th
Brutal.
in true shooting percentage. So to everyone saying, "Well, we played softballs for the defensive rating to be so high," I would also argue when your true shooting percentage is so bad, 30th in the league bad, you're going to lose the possession battle night in, night out.
Yeah. Yep.
That's
Yeah.
and that's
And
going to generate more shots for the opponent.
yeah, and one of the things though is kind of what I've noticed, even being defensively better over the last 10 games or so, um, it just drives me nuts. It grinds my gears like it does when, we have a guy like Rudy who,
Mhm.
he just acts like he doesn't want to box out. Like, dude, you're over 7 feet tall with a wingspan of 7 feet, whatever it is.
Mm.
And you got guys like Diabite from the Suns, who is outworking you, who's 6'9", 6'10", and they are getting more and more opportunities.
Mm.
Um, I don't know. It's just that was one thing that I watched the other night against the Hornets where, that game was winnable. It really was. I mean,
Mhm.
yes, the Hornets were hitting everything, but in that first half, we gave them so many second chances.
Yeah.
And even with our defensive rating being second in the league in the last 10 games or so, that's just one thing that the Wolves have to clean up going into the playoffs. And I know we kind of keep going
Right.
back to the playoffs and whatnot, but um, it's not going to matter how good of an offensive team you are if you're not getting, or if you're getting the defensive stops, but you're not getting the rebounds,
Yeah.
and that's just across the board. And it did seem like it was better, but during this last streak of games, man, it was rough to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really tough thing, and,
Hmm.
I wanna shout out the Pistons game, like, when you're shooting so poorly, I thought the Timberwolves did a fantastic job against a really good defensive team creating open looks, and they didn't
Yeah.
hit a lot of the time.
Mhm.
Uh, I think we're really due for kind of
Yeah.
the shot to come around on a few guys, and
Mhm.
that leads me to Nas tonight, who had a much better game shooting. He
Mhm.
went 3 for 5, which is great to see. He's been struggling from deep before this game. He
Yeah.
had been shooting 27.7% from catch and shoot looks since
Hmm.
his injury on February 22nd. Just not good enough. And he's
Right.
drawn a lot of criticism from the fans. He might be hurt with a shoulder injury, but ultimately, if he's going to play, you need a little bit more from him.
Hmm.
So I thought it was great to see him have a good night.
Yeah.
Wanted to get your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah. It's the shoulder thing. It's your shooting shoulder. It's going to
Mhm.
hurt. Just hearing different things and whatnot about the injury, and it's not that great. But if he wants to fight through it, you gotta expect that you gotta be able to perform a little bit better. So
Mhm.
tonight with him going to the rim a little bit more, not only that, but the last few games he's been trying to get to the rim.
Mm.
He's not trying to shoot as many threes as we're used to. Um, but again, I mean, he is hitting more. I believe it was in the Philly game. He hit a few of them in the corner. The Detroit game too. Like
Yeah.
he's starting to pick it up a little bit. The stats or the percentages might not show, but he's another guy where coming off the bench, we need him to produce if we're gonna have any sort of run, especially against the Nuggets, who it looks like we're gonna be playing in the first round. We're
Mhm.
gonna have to have him be able to perform because when Rudy goes on the bench or Randall goes down or whatever the case is, he's going to have to guard an Aaron Gordon or maybe sometimes a Jokic. Like he's going to have to be able to do these things. And if your offensive game isn't working, then you better be hustling and playing defense. So
Yeah.
I think that Nas has shown that he can do that throughout the year and just throughout his career. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, and he's always
Mhm.
had some streakiness to him.
Yeah.
When your main skill set's shooting, and I get it, like, when you're watching a game, it's frustrating as a fan.
Yeah.
Come on, man, we're paying you $125 million, and your main
Mhm.
your main asset is shooting. We need you to hit some shots. But
Mhm.
ultimately, when your main skill set is something that's tied to being elite, if you're doing it 40% of the time, that's gonna cause some variance.
Yeah.
And you see it with Dante DiVincenzo as well. It's almost like
Mhm.
every other game, he has an off shooting night, um, and then he has a great shooting night.
Right.
And you're just gonna get that when you're tied to being elite at 40% of what you do. Now, what I love that Dante does specifically is when he's not having a good shooting night, like, tonight he went 3 for 10, he's always making a hustle play out there.
Yes.
He's doing something where like he gets a Mr. Rim Protector, gets a block at the rim, he makes a big steal,
Hmm.
just to Energizer Bunny. Uh,
Yep.
and you love to see that for a guy when the shots aren't falling. And you kind of want to see when Nas doesn't have those shots falling. He has
Hmm.
such a pretty, jump hook, ability to
Yes.
to take his man off the dribble with his handles.
Hmm.
And you'd like to just kind of see him get back into that rhythm.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a shoulder injury. Maybe there's some range of
Hmm.
motion he's missing, and that's why we're not really seeing them Nas handles lately. Uh,
Hmm.
but you just like to see him when he does have those off nights, maybe get to something else.
Yeah,
Uh,
and that's yeah, I mean, just kind of piggyback off of that, like Jim Pete talks about it all the time where he's like, "Oh,
mhm,
Nas isn't shooting great from, the three line, but he's trying to get himself into the game by driving to the hoop,
mhm,
by doing what he can, doing the hook shots or whatever the case may be, to get himself kind of going." And that sometimes as a basketball player, you just need to see the ball go through the hoop. Like that's just kind of
mhm,
what it is if you're having a struggle night. But yeah, back to Dante, man. Like that's one thing that I love about Dante is that if he is not shooting well, he could be 1 for 10, and all 3-point shots 1 for 10, but he's going to give you all he's got on the defensive end. And I don't think that fans really realize and appreciate that enough, because I don't know. It's just, I see all these, whether it's tweets and anywhere, people writing about the team and, oh, Dante sucks or Dante's bad. He's horrible. But I don't think they really realize that what he does for the team, that doesn't associate with the stat line.
mhm,
Like I said, he could be 1 for 10, 3 points, but he could have 5 rebounds and 5 assists and a steal. And
mhm,
there's 3 of the 5 rebounds were huge rebounds at the end of the game, or there was a steal at the end of the game that was critical, to get us up by 4 instead of only being up by 2 or tying the game. It's just the little things, the little
mhm.
details of the game that he does for us that makes him just, I don't know, just makes him a great player for our lineup.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Speaking of steals, we're gonna
Yeah.
go down the bench here, and we gotta talk about Jalen Clark.
Yeah.
Uh, Great to see him. He's a player
Hmm.
that's obviously is out of the rotation, but when you think
Yeah.
about the playoffs, a situational matchup, it's good to see him kinda get some run,
Yeah.
and get some of that live game action, and
Hmm.
he was pretty outstanding, especially against a Pacers team that's more focused on some lottery odds. You see him under the basket doing his signature, steal it from under the hoop and get a score. He made a 3-point shot. So it's good to see Clark out there,
Yeah.
especially as somebody that we might need in a situational matchup in
Right.
the coming weeks here.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Clark, man, you look back at last year and he was he was a part of the lineup.
Mhm,
He was crucial in, the OKC game during the regular season where we came back. I don't know how much we were down by. Went into overtime and we beat him with Ant on the
mm,
bench. Ant was healthy and they just sat him on the bench for the entire fourth quarter. But it's just one of those things where he's kind of another guy where, yeah, he's not going to give you 10, 11 points, which he had 11 tonight. He's not going to give you that on a nightly basis. But what he's going to give you is that
mm,
defensive tenacity. What tonight he had four steals. Yeah, he had 4 steals
mhm,
tonight. I mean, just that's just what he does. He is a defensive
mhm.
assassin, and he can guard almost anybody on the court. You know, um, doesn't matter. I mean, he seems to do well against like SGA. Something that I've noticed over the
Mhm,
last 2 seasons. But it is nice that he's getting some run here because it seemed like, at the beginning of the season, middle, he he just didn't seem like that same guy. There was no Clark County, right? We had that thing going on around last year. Whoa, Clark County, that type of thing. And
Yeah.
we weren't seeing that. So I'm happy that we are finally able to like kind of witness this again, showing that potential of what he has. And again, I mean, he gave us 11 points. He hit a 3-pointer. I mean, that's great. He's not like the greatest 3-point shooter, but he gave us something off the bench tonight. And it just seems like over the last few games that he's giving us a little bit of a spark on the defensive end.
Mm.
And maybe that's what's adding to the defensive rating over the last few games and why it's been so high.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So that leads us, now that we're 20 minutes here into the show and got 171
yeah,
people out there watching, let's
yeah,
talk about Bones Highland. What were your
yeah.
thoughts on him tonight?
Oh man, it's the same thing about Io. Like it's just he's been a fan favorite all year long. From someone who we got at the end of last year, brought him on the bench, was never
Mm,
gonna play in a game. And then he didn't know if he was going to be in the NBA heading into this year, right? That's just kind of one of the things
yeah,
where we signed him late, right before the season
mhm,
started, and he didn't really know what his role was going to be, especially with finding out a few days before that Mike was not going to be our starting point guard.
mm,
And yeah, just kind of like early on, he was very streaky, hit a few shots here and there throughout the couple games, and then he'd go cold. We wouldn't see him. And then
mm,
there was a game, I don't remember which one it was, but it was right before, and Finch was like, "Hey, you got to start taking shots." And Bones has been interviewed before that question, and like, yeah, once he told me that, it was all systems go.
mm.
And he's just kind of taken the world by storm when it comes to the Timberwolves. Like I said, he does the Skelly Selly. Everybody loves him. You see him in the arena, everyone's doing the celebration. But tonight, man, I mean, yeah, 19 points, 4-7 from three. Four
I'm about
seven
to,
from three.
I'm about to get on my soapbox about Bones because early in the season, I
Hmm.
had the take of why would we ever play this journeyman guy that dang near went to Europe before the
Yeah,
season over Rob Dillingham, who we invested so many
right.
assets in,
Agreed.
and I was dead wrong. This
Hmm.
guy, not only is he giving you that spark plug off the bench, but he has gotten so comfortable as a playmaker. What he's doing
Yeah.
to pull people into his gravity and his patience to find the right
Hmm.
play,
Hmm.
it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And not to mention just the quick strike shooting ability. He went 4 for
Mhm.
7, and he
Yeah.
can hit some difficult shots. The way he has the body control in the corner to
Yeah.
just turn it around and sink that sucker.
Yeah.
So Bones has just been so impressive to have a
Hmm.
guy like that off the bench. It's
Hmm.
almost it's the exact type of player that Chris Finch has been searching for off the bench since he came here. For
Yeah.
a lot of years, we thought it was going to be Jalen Noel. That didn't work out.
I thought so.
Oh, man.
I love
We
Jalen
go and
Noel,
trade
man.
for Monte Morris, in
Yeah.
the 2024 trade deadline. That
Hmm.
didn't really work out either.
Yeah.
And then you go and trade up a first round pick and a pick swap for
Mhm.
Rob Dillingham, and that doesn't work out. But here
Right.
comes Bones Highland, an original draft pick of Tim Connolly down in Denver,
Hmm.
and he is just giving you exactly the spark plug you need off the bench.
Yeah.
Somebody who can just take it to a second team and stem the tide, come and stem the tide for Anthony Edwards to get back on the court.
Yeah.
Uh, just truly unbelievable stuff. I'm blown away by him every single game. And the last
Yeah.
thing I want to highlight about him is the guy is just competing defensively, and it's just
Yeah.
it's
Hmm. I,
it's worming he's worming his way into my heart the way he's just playing. It's just an all around effort from our guy Bones.
Right. No, that's one of the things that I was just going to mention is that you look at the early, part of the season, and that was the knock on him. I
Mm,
believe Dan Barrero from K-Fan was talking about it. And he's like, "Who is this Bones guy? Like, why is he playing?
yeah.
Yes, might hit a couple shots, but he can't do anything defensively. He's not giving anything on the playmaking side. He's just chucking up shots."
Mm,
Well, that was a wrong take because this dude he is competing. Like that's just the best way to put it.
mhm,
He may not be the best defensive player out there, but he is hustling. He's getting to the spot to beat the offensive player. And he just busts his butt every night. And again, all praise to him, man. If you were almost going to Europe to play professionally, that's kind of like a death sentence when it comes
right.
to your NBA career. It really is.
I mean,
But
only Patrick Beverly is crazy enough to make his way back to an
yeah.
NBA
Oh, and
court.
we know how crazy he is. But no, one thing I was thinking about, like his, like he just gives us or gives the team like somebody that can do something off the dribble. One-on-one type game, kind of like Anthony Edwards, who can make plays happen. And again, kind of like what you're saying, we were trying to find that in Rob. We were trying to find
Mhm.
that in Monte Morris and down
Yeah.
the line. But he's able to do that for us. And the dude, I don't know why, but this came to my head. Like the dude's like a freaking barracuda. Like he's just quick strike. It's just boom,
Mm.
boom. Whether it's his passing, it doesn't matter. Like he is lightning quick. We've talked about it many times over the podcast, live and whatnot. But shout out to Bones Highland, man. If you see this, you're a freaking legend, man.
So we're gonna take a quick break, and then on the other side, we're gonna highlight what's to come here, the remainder of the final week of the NBA season, and
Sir.
then we can end on a brief breakdown of the playoffs here.
What's up, Minnesota fans? Many of you know that I help fans get tickets into games, and now I'm giving you an opportunity to get tickets to any sporting event you want, not just basketball. We're talking football, we're talking hockey, we're talking soccer, man. Any sporting event that's in town, or maybe it's a concert. All you have to do is use my promo code, The Daily Wolves, all caps, on SeatGeek. That's right, I partnered with the SeatGeek app. You can download it on iOS or Android devices. You can find it on your web browser at SeatGeek.com. Check it out today. Enter my promo code, The Daily Wolves, and get $20 off your first order.
All right, so the Timberwolves on the first leg of a back-to-back. We are going to be back in action tomorrow against the Orlando Magic.
Yeah.
And, it's the last week of the regular season. And for everyone joining, there is one crucial game on the schedule tonight. If you're a night owl, the Phoenix Suns are playing later tonight. And they are playing the Houston Rockets at 10 p.m. on
Yes.
Peacock. If the Phoenix Suns lose that game, you guys can rest easy because we will not be a play-in team. And
Yeah.
dispel that thought from your memory. So busy week ahead. It's a 4-game week.
Mhm.
But tomorrow night's a crucial one.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to go into Orlando on a second night of a back-to-back and see what we can do. Any takeaways for tomorrow night?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to kind of go off what you just said there with everyone can rest easy. We got a few people on, within our team who are a little bit scared that we might end up in the plan, and rest easy. We'll be okay. We'll be okay. But no, the Magic, the other night, last night they played the Pistons. They beat the Pistons up, man. Had like a 16-point win or whatever it was. So they're going to be coming, in, kind of refreshed. Their game
Mhm.
was at home. But, I feel like this game, it's a toss up because the Orlando Magic are a team kind of like us. Immaturity is kind of what
Mhm.
their issues are, right? They could go and beat the Detroit Pistons one night, and then they could go to the Wizards and lose by 25.
Mm.
It's just kind of what it is. Like Paolo Banchero is not playing
Mhm.
up to the standards that us fans and whatever media that's out there that has kind of crowned him to be this type of play, the player that he should be. He's not
Mm.
playing like that this year, whether it's injury wise or he wants out of Orlando, whatever the case is. But tomorrow's a big one because if the Phoenix Suns do win tonight, that puts a wrench into things, and
Mm.
that just means that you're going to have to turn it up tomorrow. And hopefully the boys will be ready to roll tomorrow and just kind of play like they did tonight, where they were shooting well. I think we had like 16, 17, or 18 steals tonight
Mm.
against the Pacers. So just something like that, like turning up the defensive intensity, because that's where we're going to need to be able to beat the Orlando Magic and kind of move forward as we're getting closer to the playoffs.
Mm. Yeah,
Mhm.
so Orlando has honestly been the definition of mid all year.
Yeah. Yeah.
For example, they are 18th in offensive rating, and 16th in defensive rating. It really can't get more mid than that.
Right.
Paulo's having a lot of criticism this year. Just hasn't really quite taken that superstar leap. So it's a winnable game. It's a
Yeah.
winnable game. It's going to be a tough one, just in the light of it's a back to back.
Mhm.
And you know what? We brought up Phoenix losing and resting easy, but if Phoenix wins, it could keep that sliver of hope alive that the Timberwolves just might be able to catch the Houston Rockets,
That's
which,
true.
quite frankly, if they can catch the Houston Rockets,
Mhm.
I mean, I think that 5 seed is going to, excuse me, the 4 seed is going to be the Lakers. I think the
Right.
Lakers are honestly a lottery team without Luka or Austin Reeves.
100%.
Denver's going to catch them in my mind, unless Denver has a meltdown.
Mhm.
And so if there's any possibility of the Timberwolves catching the Houston Rockets, that's just the most favorable outcome that you can possibly think of.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things right now. We're 2.5 games back of Houston.
Mm-hmm.
So if they were to lose tonight, we'll be 2 games back.
Mm-hmm.
Let's kind of look at their schedule just really briefly. They have the
Yeah.
Suns tonight, then they have Philly on Thursday, then they got at the end of a back-to-back, the Minnesota Timberwolves. How
Mm-hmm.
great would that be if somehow, some way they were to lose tonight? That on Friday night, Amazon Prime, that we go into Houston with a chance to kind of move forward, right? But then they have the Grizzlies. But the Grizzlies are kind of one of those teams that are, that I don't know, they're just kind of like a plucky team, right? Like they want to be able to be good. And they have been beating some good teams. I mean, they beat us what, twice this year, or 3 times, whatever it was. But yeah, I think that there is an opportunity here that the Wolves could take advantage of if the Suns were to win and beat the Rockets tonight.
So just want to, I'm sure when I mentioned that, a lot of people are rolling their eyes right now. The reason why there's a sliver of hope is the season series is tied 1-1. So
Mm-hmm.
let's say they lose a game and then the Timberwolves can come back and win. We all of a sudden hold the tiebreaker. So we don't have to pass Houston if we beat
That's
them
true.
on Friday
Yeah.
night. And, they may drop a game or two. All
Yeah.
of a sudden, we have that little advantage in the back pocket. And that's where that sliver
Mm-hmm.
of hope remains. Um,
Yeah.
Ultimately, it is a sliver of hope. We would need help from the Houston Rockets to get that 5 seed.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just something worth bringing up. Yes, we can rest easy if Phoenix loses that game. We're for
Yeah.
sure the 6th seed. We're likely destined to play the Denver Nuggets. But there is that sliver of hope that we can actually get that season series lead
Mm-hmm.
and find ourselves sneaking in on maybe the last day of the regular season when we have a very winnable game against the New Orleans Pelicans.
Yeah.
So definitely some room for some fireworks and some drama
Mm-hmm.
here. Ultimately, the Timberwolves to even make it, consider it happen, they have a very tough task to go on the road against a physical team. Albeit they're mid, but
Yeah.
if they can get that win, there's just a tiny sliver of hope that they could
Yeah.
maybe pull in and get that favorable matchup against the Lakers.
Right. Yeah. And I don't honestly, I mean, I kind of go back and forth on this. And I'm sure every fan does too. You see it on Twitter, Facebook, wherever. And oh, we want to play the Lakers. Oh, we want to play the Nuggets because we want to play the Spurs in the second round if we were to beat the Nuggets. Oh, we own the Nuggets, that kind of thing. And I just kind of want to say this, like, don't poke the bear, man. Like Jokic he wants revenge on us. I mean,
Mm.
that's game 7 a few years ago where they gave up a 20 plus point lead in the second half. That's still ingrained in him. Like he's still thinking about that. So just be careful what you wish for, Wolves fans, if you're really wanting to play the Nuggets. I am on the side of wanting to play the Nuggets, not because we own them, but it's more or less just if we were to win and move on, and I feel like that series is be a great series, 6, 7 games. But if we were to move on, we would play the Spurs, which I like the Spurs Wolves matchup. I really do. I think again that series would go 7 games. After just watching kind of how we played throughout the year against them, whether it was in San Antonio or here at home, I would love to watch the Wolves battle Wemby and the Spurs in the second round.
Mm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I mean, as much as I'm talking about hope, I'm preparing for a matchup against the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah.
And if the Timberwolves can get healthy, there's been a lot of frustration, and the fans, you're justified to have the frustration from what we've watched the last couple
Mhm.
of games.
Right.
But the team has had a little bit of an uptick in defense
Yeah.
in the last 10 games here. And if you can get Anthony Edwards back and start adjusting that offense, which we talked about earlier, is 29th in offensive rating and 30th in true shooting percentage. Those numbers go up, especially in a slower half court setting. And you have a guy like Anthony Edwards who commands
Yeah.
gravity, creates open shots.
Mhm.
And so if you have a healthy Anthony Edwards, and playing on a bone bruise might be pretty tough on Jaden, but if you can get Jaden back and healthy, this team does have that gear. Again, I'm sure a lot of
Mhm.
fans are rolling their eyes right now.
Right.
But if you can pair that defensive gear that they've shown flashes of, uh, and you can mesh that with the transition ability, the twin turbos, and what we're seeing from Io,
Mhm.
that's where you're starting to kind of picture what this team could be and what that upper
Yeah.
limit could be. And then one more thing, if they can just find another thing in the half court, I've talked
Mhm.
about maybe Io with his chemistry in the pick and roll.
Yeah.
If you can get that opposite of Anthony Edwards, I mean, sure, you can send two in the ball to force Rudy Gobert to have the ball in space. But I'm also sitting here thinking, like, are you really going to send two on the ball when it's Anthony Edwards on the
Right.
opposite wing? Is that
You're
actually a good payoff? I mean, because you could just make a quick pass the second you see it coming from IL, and now you have
Mhm.
Anthony Edwards against a shifted defense.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, can you find that defensive gear that you've shown flashes of? And
Mhm.
we know what they can do. They've got to two
Yeah.
Western Conference finals.
Right.
And you can mesh that with that transition game that we've lacked for the past 2 years. One
Mhm.
more thing, we have a legitimate 9-man rotation
Right.
where Kyle Anderson has come in and been able to solve some of that defense off the bench without Rudy. So we run deeper than we have the last 2 years, believe it or
Yeah.
not. Um, and that's where you kind of see that, okay, there is definitely something to believe in here. It's just a matter of, are the guys going to be healthy?
Yeah.
And ultimately, if they show up, game 1, game 2, and that defensive intensity is not there,
Yeah.
yeah, that's,
Yeah. It's
then we have a deeper conversation about the offseason.
right. Yeah. It's just one of those things because all of us fans, we want them to perform, right? It's like almost
Mm,
we want it more than they do when it comes to some points during the year.
mm,
And that's just kind of how I felt, just kind of like outside looking in. But yes, if kind of going back to what you're saying, like kind of, running in the half court there. We talked about this in our, I believe it was the review preview last Sunday,
mhm,
and we're talking about Julius Randle, like setting up plays for him, right? Like
mhm.
let him get downhill, like let him do some stuff. Now, again, fans, we're not talking about him turning his back to the basket and bouncing the basketball 20
Yes.
times where there's a second left and he jump passes and throws it out of bounds. No, we're talking about getting him in space, letting him get to the hole because with his size and with his frame, there's a reason why Julius Randle leads the league in and one opportunities. It's because he plays bully ball. Like that's just kind of the way it is. And if
Mm,
we can somehow get that in like ingrained into the team before the playoffs here, it'd be really great.
yeah.
But yeah, just kind of the defensive stuff. Like you have to. The playoffs are a different beast, right? We've seen this the last few years, um, and if Ant comes back healthy, again, if we don't know how his
Yeah.
knee
It's a
is or
variable.
whatever's going on, right? But if Ant can come back healthy, and even if Jaden is at 80%, we're still a really good team when Jaden is only scoring 10 points a night. Like that's
Mhm.
just how it is. And again, like you said, we have a deep bench. So that plays into our hands of a lot of teams, Lakers, Nuggets, do not have great benches. Rockets, not a great
Oh, man.
bench.
I mean, I
But
think the Lakers would struggle to win a play. Excuse me. If they held a tournament for all the lottery teams, I think the Lakers would
yeah,
struggle immensely without Luca and Austin Reeves to even make a dent in
I,
those playoffs,
I mean,
nonetheless the real
yeah,
playoffs.
right.
Which is why, like, I look at, like, maybe I do cheer for the Houston Rockets tonight to lose and Phoenix
Yeah.
to still loom over us, because if there's even a sliver you get to play the Lakers.
Mhm.
I've seen this a lot on Twitter. I get it. We had a softball to the Western Conference Finals last year. And
We
I
did. We did.
understand a lot of people like are okay. We got to see him play a real team. A real
Yeah.
team. And if we get, belted again in 5 games like we did in the Western Conference Finals, then we have our
Yeah.
proof we need to make changes. But you know
Right.
what? If you have a softball round 1 series, that almost guarantees you that you have a
Mhm.
healthy Jay McDaniels for
Yeah.
round 2. And now
Yeah.
you're talking about, okay, this team, they won a series, probably easily if they play the Lakers,
Right.
even despite the injuries. And now you have a team that has a little bit of momentum, and they
Yeah.
have the depth. And sure, they're playing OKC, but we've watched this team run out of gas 2 years in a row in the Western Conference Finals.
Mhm.
It might not be the worst thing in the world to play Oklahoma City in round 2, not later
Right.
on, when we
Right.
have a little bit more gas. Because ultimately, if you're gonna go to the finals, you're gonna have to beat one of the Spurs, Nuggets, OKC along the way. You're gonna play them eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. And you want your horses to be healthy. You want all systems go. I mean, you've seen whatever the stat was the last time we played in OKC, where we've beaten them quite a few times during the regular season. It's just the postseason from last year where we went 4-1 against them. But like, Ant shows up against OKC. Now it's whether Rudy shows up, Jaden shows up, Julius.
Yeah.
Talk about Julius, where he actually had. You told me this. You're like, he actually had a decent series against OKC,
Well,
but
not
me
really a decent
remembering,
series. He had a
well,
decent shooting series. He was
okay,
shooting. He
yes,
had hot shooting.
yes,
Like everyone
yes.
watching, go back and look at the box scores, and without with your preconceived notions of Julius, go back and look at the Western Conference Finals box scores, and you're going to be surprised at his points, because that dude was lights out from deep. Yes, he was awful everywhere else in the court, but that dude shot I can't remember what the stat was. We talked about it on a previous pod, but it was north of 40%. It was like 48% from deep in that series.
And that's the thing. Like, if he can be that player, there's no reason why we can't beat OKC. I mean, we did it a couple times here this year, or the last few years. Like, they're not unbeatable. Like, I feel like everyone's here saying, oh, we can't beat OKC, we can't do this, we can't do that. Well, screw it. Why can't we? If it's in the second round and we're playing OKC, we have arrested Anthony Edwards, who has, I guess, like you just said, he's ran out of gas at the Western Conference Finals. And we have all these pieces in place with the bench who can match up against the bench of OKC. They have a deep bench as well, but we can match up with them. And it's just one of those things where I hope we get the opportunity to play them again, whether it is a second round or the Western Conference Finals, because we have to get over the hump somehow. And like you just said, we have to beat the Nuggets, Spurs, and or OKC Thunder. And what a run that would be if we could beat all 3 of them, and then going to the West, or going to the finals, and then beating a Boston Celtics or whatever the case may be. It would just be a run for the ages.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not running to a sports book.
No, I'm not either. I'm not either.
Not running to a sports book. But it is just something to highlight when you see 2 years in a row they're talking about how tired they were in the Western Conference Finals. I also think this team is so vibes based, where if they just they get belted 2 games in a row, like 2 years ago against Dallas. I think if they win game 1 or 2, I mean, everyone talks about Luka's shot, which pisses me off because Rudy shut him down the possession before. And Naz Reid had a wide open look from his hot spot on the floor. He makes that shot. It's a different series, because all of a sudden they have that momentum, and that maybe gets some juice back in the legs. But I mean, it is a grind. The playoffs are a grind, and if you can maybe get a bill of health, maybe you get lucky, and you're all of a sudden playing the Lakers because you take care of business all of a sudden, which is a tall task for this team.
Right.
To have them win tomorrow in Orlando, to even set up an opportunity if Houston loses tonight, is a tall task for this team. They have to go and play a pretty decent mid, but a pretty physical team on the second end of a back-to-back in Orlando. Again, I'm probably not running to a sports book with what we've seen on the up and down nature of this team. I mean, obviously you and I bring it up just, hey, this is an option at their disposal. But if you could maybe just get some guys healthy and maybe see one of those elite teams a little bit earlier, it'd be fun to watch, man.
Yeah, and the vibes just got to change. We saw the John K, Johnny post about how the vibes are kind of in a sunken place. That's kind of what's been going through social media right now. And maybe it is, but one thing that will change that is this game tonight, winning by 20, going into Orlando. I don't care if it's by a point, beating Orlando. If you can rack some wins up here to end the season, those vibes in that locker room will be at an ultimate high. And one last thing before we go, whatever, just think about 2 years ago, right? Last game of the season, we played the Phoenix Suns. We went 0-4 against, right? We got our butts whooped at the end of the year. What was the narrative going on through social media?
We're going to get our butts kicked. Man, we have
Exactly.
no chance. Like, this is such a horrible
Yes.
matchup.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what vibes are right now.
Mhm.
That's how I view it. Like that's the vibe of all the fans for the Wolves. So
Yeah.
just stick with it here. We have 3 games left. And if we can somehow maneuver and win 2 of the 3 or all 3 of them, and we go into the playoffs with a 4-game win streak, Ant comes back, Jaden comes back. It's a whole new ball game in the playoffs, whether it's against the Nuggets, Lakers, whatever it is.
Mhm.
It's going to be game on, and Ant's going to bring his A game. It's just
Mhm.
whether the rest of the team does.
Yeah, if we can get a
Mhm,
bill of health, but yeah, for everyone on here,
mhm,
again, if you're looking for a reason to hope,
mhm.
it's how we played some pretty solid defense. If you,
Yeah.
again, I hate saying that when there's that Charlotte game burning in the back of my mind, but we played some solid defense of the past 10 games, second in
Mhm.
defensive rating, first in opposing field goal percentage. So if you can just get Ant back to that a little bit higher defensive intensity, get the transition game, um, and just find one more thing in the half court besides Ant, whether that's Julius, you talked about it, getting him
Yep.
going downhill with momentum.
Mhm.
Bones has been awesome getting the
Right.
ball to Julius in a spot where he has the ball momentum and can make a play in a favorable position. I don't
Mhm.
think I know Julius has a lot of justified criticism, but I don't think we do
Yeah.
a good enough job getting him in spots where he can be truly effective often
Agreed.
enough. Um,
Agreed.
so if you can just find those things, find one more thing outside of Ant in the half court,
Mhm.
you know, I mean, this team is can do they can do it.
They can.
Again, not
I
running
mean,
to a sports book given what we've seen this
right.
year and the bill of health currently, but
Yeah. I mean, just like
it
what we
needs to
said a
be
little.
acknowledged the personnel here.
Yeah, it's the bench, how deep it is, deeper than we've ever
Mhm,
had it. We still got the pieces in place to make the run that we did last year. Again, everyone says softball, whatever the case, screw it. It's hard
mhm.
to make it all the way through. It doesn't matter if teams are injured. You still had to beat Luca, Reeves, and LeBron
Yeah.
series one. Yes, Steph got hurt game 1, but we beat him.
Mhm.
It's just one of those things where the guys got to show up, and if everyone's
Yeah.
healthy, we have the bench, we have the depth, we have everything it needs to get to the NBA finals. So I hope it happens. But as we're or live streaming this now, when you and I get back on Sunday and we're talking through kind of the review of what the games have been, we'll be talking about the playoffs more in depth and kind of seeing what who will be playing. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, we will be around here at the Daily Wolves. A lot of different faces here, but we'll be coming
Mhm.
at you with a lot of different podcasts throughout the week.
Yep.
Cole and I will usually do a Sunday segment breaking down what happened in the week. So please, if you enjoyed this pod, go and check us out on Sundays.
Yes, sir.
Thank you all. I see 267 here watching us live. Thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate you. And most importantly, go Wolves.
Go Wolves.